All right, y'all. It was day 7. Sorry it took so long for all this. I actually am breaking up the video into 3 different parts because it was such large content, and that's what led into the procrastination along with life happening. So I'm going to be making a video about tips for people who want to try water fast themselves. This video will be about the key takeaways from what I got from the experience that everyone can learn from. And then the third video will be about the labs that I got and a special breakdown of that. So as far as the key takeaways, let's start off with, I started off weighing 235, and this is 4 days later. I now weigh 226. So I lost a net of 9 pounds 4 days after the fact. I expected to weigh 7 to 10 pounds less of pure fat, and that's cool that it fell right in that range after I've eaten a bunch of pizza, a bunch of carbs, a bunch of cookies, all that stuff that refilled my glycogen. So I know that this weight is, I actually lost roughly about 9 pounds of pure fat. So that was pretty cool, and it shows. This was a really cool experience. I definitely wanted to go a little more, but I got so hyped on what I was gonna eat to break my fast that I just wanted to do it, and I know I can always do this again if I wanted to. So yeah, let's get into it. So one of the major takeaways that I got was that I originally thought getting into ketosis was a lot more simple with the trials that I've done with my blood meter before. I didn't think that depleting your glycogen was as necessary as I thought it was, and it turns out that that is a pretty essential step, and your glycogen stores are a lot more full than you think. It took me a whole 24 hours to actually start getting into the 1.0 range, 1 to 2.0 range, and then it wasn't until about the 3rd or 4th day that I started consistently seeing 2s in my ketone readings, which is kind of where you want to be. So you actually are in ketosis after like the first 24 hours or so, at least for me, myself, I was. And then knowing that I need to actually burn up all that sugar, all that bodily sugar that's stored in all your muscle and your liver, it takes a lot longer than I thought. So that's going to affect my targeted keto approach. And targeted keto, again, is placing carbs either before and or after your workout. I've been doing that for the past few days of doing it before and after. I've been testing my sugars, and it turns out the after part might not be as necessary as I thought. So we're going to try and just front load the sugar for the anaerobic activities so that I can get the best lift possible and best muscle growth. Leading into the next key topic, which is that how essential sugar is for anaerobic activity. So I noticed throughout my fast that every time I worked out an anaerobic style, whether it be weight training or just doing little sprints, if I did want to do that, if I tried to do that, didn't really do that much because I was too exhausted. You need, I think sugar is the for sure preferred fuel at this point in time for what I've been shown and for experiencing it myself. Any activity above a power walking heart rate, I believe sugar is the preferred fuel that will make you feel best in accomplishing that activity. So with the targeted keto approach, I think it's going to fit it perfectly. I will hopefully, in theory, this is how it's all going to work, is that I'll be doing keto throughout the day, and then I'll be doing, oops, sorry, my computer just goes, my notes. I'll be front loading sugar right before my workout, about 60 to 70 grams right before my workout, and that'll carry me through my workout. I'll deplete all that sugar, and then I'll just be doing proteins and fats, and then hopefully my glycogen stores won't refill, and I'll be in a state of ketosis up until the next day and be even further. Yeah, and I'll just go deeper, and then I'll front load with sugar again before my workout. And if I don't work out, then I don't get carbs. The way I'm trying to actually look at carbs and the way that carbs came natural to me after all of this is that carbs can be viewed as performance enhancing drugs. I heard that analogy in one of the videos I watched, and that seems so appropriate because it seems like ever since I've been plugging them back in right before my workouts, about 15 to 30 minutes right before my workout, my workouts have been fantastic. I've been able to do create like big explosive movements and get into that 1 to 10 rep range and while burning out, and that seems to be the preferred fuel source. And sugar is a fast acting source of fuel, so it actually makes perfect sense that it would be burned up super quick and be good for that anaerobic metabolism. So yes, carbs are in my opinion, a great performance enhancing drug, and you should, if you treat it like that, that would actually help with your lifting and for fat loss. And just to piggyback on that, when people say that you need to be eating around the clock in order to not be breaking down muscle, let's actually go into that right now. So I now almost pretty much know for a fact that if you don't eat, you will not lose muscle. So here's the caveat to that: if you're not using your muscle, you will lose it. So most people who don't eat have a lack of energy and do not want to work out. However, I forced myself to the gym and I was replenishing my electrolytes, so I was actually feeling pretty good. But as far as exerting myself, I noticed that big, powerful movements weren't working, so I modified it to be nice and slow. And as long as I did that and actually I communicated to my body, hey, we are using all of these muscle fibers and there's no reason to put them away. Like, this is what we're going to be doing, so you have to keep them. And turns out like that physiology actually works out. If you create a demand, your body will always keep supplying it. It's almost like your muscle tissue, it's built to be as big as it is right now. Your body will not remove any of those filaments, any of those actin and fibers. It won't remove those unless you don't use them, in which case it'll get rid of it. So if I'm still using it, it's going to retain it. So a huge powerful thing about this was when I talk to a lot of people and they worry about muscle loss, and they, especially with intermittent fasting, because when you're in the bodybuilding world, it's eat every 4 hours, and if you miss a meal, that's an opportunity that you miss to be in an anabolic state. And that whole talk and jargon, I feel like that applies to a glucose-based diet. But if you are adopting this new understanding of actually how all the macros work, you'll understand that you can be anabolic for part of the day, and you can also be catabolic. And even if you're catabolic, you're still repairing muscle tissue. I guess if I can explain that a little better, is that as long as you're replenishing your protein for how much damage you did to yourself during a workout, as long as you're replenishing that within, I would assume, a 24-hour period, from other videos that I've seen from other people who are getting great results and that I've been doing myself, doing the 1 meal a day diet, as long as you're getting that within a 24-hour period, there's no reason why your body's not going to use the protein to rebuild what you've damaged. And you can essentially be in a anabolic state by, I wouldn't even call it an anabolic state. Your body's going to repair itself with the protein tissue that you've ingested, and you can still be breaking down fat for energy. So back to the analogy of having furniture in a house and firewood and going to start a fire in your chimney, you wouldn't chop up your couch and throw that in if you had firewood available. So your body will actually always take their firewood, and if you're supplying adequate amount of protein for your workouts, your body's gonna not burn that for energy, but instead use it as a reparative tissue. So that's the theory that I'm messing with right now, and it seems to be checking out pretty well. I mean, you tell me. Let's go. So anyhow, let's talk about black coffee. I thought that was such a powerful tool during this. I noticed anytime I drank black coffee, in theory, it's supposed to spike epinephrine. Epinephrine is supposed to act on the enzyme that helps dump out your fat. And so that's the theory of it. And that theory was fact. I noticed that every time after I ingested coffee, my energy levels just went through the roof. And my ketone meter peaked at 2.5, which was the highest that I got during the fast. And the caveat to black coffee, though, so sorry for we're gonna go there. I diarrheaed after every black coffee ingestion, and I did 3 cups of black coffee throughout the time, once on each of 3 days. And yes, I feel like it was you pay the tax in order to get the reward, and so I did it 3 times, and I mean, I would do it again still, because the energy level that I felt from it was like a true boost. and I don't care if I just have to go to the bathroom like that just for a sec, and it's not that bad. Yeah, sounds a little weird, but that theory matched up really well. Um, Fun fact, I was still going to the bathroom on day 7, a bowel movement on day 7, and it wasn't very solid at all, but I went a little bit, and it's crazy to know that food in your digestional tract still stays inside like that for that long. So just quick little takeaway of how long it could take your actual body to adjust to new diets, because your food stays in there for a lot longer than you think. So let's see. Anything else? Yeah. I will try to. Oh, and so this one is for keto for sedentary people. So with going through this fast, I noticed that if I wasn't doing anything over an activity level of just walking, the state of ketosis was perfect for fat loss and energy levels. So when people would ask me, "Oh man, like how are you doing?" and I legitimately would feel like it was any other day and that I was fed. And what was kind of cool, Najee, is that, well, this whole fasting process really the whole meaning behind it is that you're using your body fat for energy. I imagine I try to make an analogy that you have little candy bars all over your body. So you actually feel normal when you're fasting because your body keeps going back for your own personal candy bars, and it'll actually use that as energy. Fat is stored energy, and I can't wait for people to start wrapping their head around that. Fat isn't just this cosmetic thing that happens because you have a lot to eat one day. It's because your body has a natural mechanism that if it takes in excess energy, it can store it for a later time where there is no energy or there's no dietary energy coming in. So if we can kind of get our heads around the fact that your body fat is stored energy, and good ways to access that would be to deplenish your glycogen stores, and then you can start tapping into your long-term fat. So yes. Okay, so that was the key takeaways video. I will try to make a lab video soon, and then tips for people who are also water fasting next. Thank you guys for following this journey, for those who did. And if anyone has any questions, please put them in the comments below, and please subscribe to this page. It would be really cool if I can get up to 100 subscribers eventually, to where I can make a backslash for my YouTube channel. When people ask what my channel is, I can say Keto by Micah. That would be a cool deal. Otherwise, hope you guys are getting a lot from this. I'm going to keep test trialing a bunch of stuff so that you can implement it yourself and get the results that I'm getting and feel as good as I'm feeling. And that's the whole premise of all this, is that I really started to only feel like I've caught stride of life through my diet in the last 6 to 8 months. I feel like my life has really just begun, because now that I understand food, I don't ever feel victimized by it. I don't ever feel like it's ever disserviced me, that why can't anything go my way, that I have all these self-defeating thoughts about food and a bad relationship with it. What's been so empowering about the keto diet is that I understand food now. You don't have to do the keto diet necessarily, but once you understand how the keto diet works, it actually applies. The rules of how keto works applies to all the diets across the board. So what's cool about that is I can explain how a glucose diet works, how someone can eat perfectly portioned meals throughout the day, and that'll actually make sense for them to stay so lean and be able to dip into their fat stores physiologically. We can get into that on another video, but I can explain how their diet works, and I find that most people who are on those kinds of diets, they actually can explain how keto works, because whether it be some sort of ignorance out of this is what I've been doing, I know it works, and so anything that's not that doesn't work. And fat is crazy. Fat makes you fat. Fat causes heart attacks. Like, that diet is ridiculous. We'll let these people have their talk like that and keep negatively influencing the world with that kind of just ignorance, because they don't ever take the time to dip into, hey, this is a super growing trend and fad. I wonder how it works. And it is to my understanding, with seriously hundreds of hours of my free time dedicated to researching this and implementing myself, that this is the real deal. Keto might not be something some people do every day, but the rules of how keto works, the physiology of how a high fat, low carbohydrate diet works, it works perfectly with how a human functions. And if you can implement the rules to any degree at all and make those small life changes and start noticing that you're a little happier, noticing that you're a little more energetic, noticing that just life is better, and you're not as victimized or feeling that way because, oh, like, that makes sense. I put this in my body, I can expect to feel that way. Versus a lot of people be like, oh, I do this and I do that, and it still doesn't work, and I still fall off, and all this keeps happening, and play that card like I used to. When I used to weigh, when I used to hover around 260, and now I'm 225, I am fully happy and empowered now because I know, hey, if I eat the 6 slices of pizza, like, I'm going to store fat. So don't feel shitty in the morning when I wake up and see that the scale got a lot larger. Like, that's fact. Like, and however, I can mitigate that by killing it in the gym right after I do that, and then get back into a state of ketosis, burning my own fat again, looking at it that like that. Or if I wanted to perfectly place a carb in the way that I'm doing right now, right before I work out, you can have your carbs strategically and to your advantage. If you understand how carbs actually function in the body and how they actually work against you in some ways by not allowing you to burn fat, because once you start learning about insulin levels and how they spike, keeping you out of fat burning mode, which I'll put in other videos, is the whole science of this all makes so much sense. And I can't wait to start rolling out more and more content where people can start grasping these ideas, because I know I'm only hitting a certain target audience that can kind of keep up if they've already been in it. I do plan on making a series for I'm almost thinking the idea that I'll have my mom, who kind of doesn't understand this as much as someone who's in the medical business like most people, and if I can take videos of me explaining basic concepts to her so that in real time you can see someone who isn't up with all the lingo but learns and digests it and asks the common questions that I do hear a lot, and then I can go through and answer those with her, and hopefully a lot of people can take those away from that. But otherwise, I'm trying to just speak as generally as I can to cover those who are with the whole nutritional fad, or not fad, but just the journey of how the whole science of all this is going, and to those who are just super new and this might be the first video you ever see of me. All right, y'all. So I will see you in the next one. Keto by Micah, out!